Hey guys, it's David from theunlocker.com, and today we have a follow-up to our initial review of the Nokia N9. We're going to call this a walkthrough, or even maybe part 2 of the review. We're basically going to go into further detail of all of the apps and stuff that come on the device because we didn't have time to really do that in the first review. So this one's going to be a bit, what's the word? Not short. Long. That's it. It's going to be long. So if you are okay with that and you kind of want to see everything this device has to offer and kind of sort of our little thoughts on it, then get ready. We also have what I'm going to call a status bar, for lack of a better term. But if you tap up here at the very top, it drops down and gives you quick access to your profile, so changing it from silent to beep to ringing, and then different volume levels within that ringing. Also the volume of the entire device, so music and media and stuff like that. Your internet connection and your availability, which you can click on and change between your Facebook and your Gtalk and whatever other Skype, etc. And this can be accessed from any screen. Okay, now onto the lock screen. We do have here what I guess Nokia calls the standby screen. It's basically what goes on top of the lock screen if you're not using the device. If this is in your pocket, the light sensor notifies it that it's in your pocket, and this screen doesn't show. But if this is ever out, sitting on a table, etc., like it is now, this always shows, constantly. Doesn't use too much battery power. I've never had an issue with the battery, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But it does show if you have any type of messages. That's the message icon for text messages. You have email, missed calls, that kind of stuff does show right on here, and then the time, and it just kind of bounces around like a screensaver would. Now you wake up the device by either pushing the power button on the side or by double tapping that screen, and then brings you to your actual lock screen, which tells you a little bit more information. So I actually have 2 messages, tells me who they're from, etc., the date, etc. And after you double tap to get into the device, you can swipe from the edge here to undo the lock screen. Or if you have a notification like I do here, if you pull on that actual notification and swipe it off, it brings you directly into the text message. Okay, so now let's go through some of the apps real quick. One of the apps that comes on the device is obviously the phone app. Opening this, you do have 3 screens. The first one being your recent calls, which can also be sorted by missed calls, received calls, and dialed calls. Tapping over, we now have the dialer, and for those of you that are curious, there is no smart dialing. You can't, for example, type in DAD and get dad. You have to actually go to the contacts. But luckily, the contacts are very close. They're this button right here. And all of your contacts are listed in here. Tapping on any one of those will automatically call them instead of taking you to their contact app, which is what happens when you're actually in the contact program and clicking on a contact. Okay, next up we have the Contacts app. If you click on that, it just lists all of your contacts. Also, this does sync with a number of different accounts natively in the phone itself, including the ones that you actually care about: Facebook, Twitter, Skype, Google, and Exchange. It does also sync your Facebook profile pictures natively, but it seems to only want to do that to people that it likes. So as you can see, all these people are on Facebook, and yet it doesn't seem to like any of them. Well, a few of them. Majority of my friends it hates, so it doesn't want to sync their pictures, but it's supposed to. Okay, next up we have the messaging app. The messaging app works very similar to any other messaging app. Tapping on someone gives you a threaded view of your conversation. Tapping messages brings you back. You can also, when in a threaded conversation, if you tap on their name up here, or actually their image up there at the top, it takes you to their contact card. And that, of course, brings us to the keyboard. The keyboard works in portrait and in landscape mode. And I like that in landscape mode it doesn't actually have the input field take up the whole screen, so I can still look around, unlike Android, for example. And the keyboard is very responsive. And pretty accurate. It also has spelling suggestions. When you tap on a word, you can add them to the dictionary. It'll also list them, and you can tap them to select that word. Very responsive and very clicky. Has a nice little clicking feeling to it. Kind of reminds you of a certain phone made by Apple. Also, we do have the ability to obviously attach things. Music, contacts, images, events, that kind of stuff. And they pop up in like a little bubble down here whenever you send them out. You also have delivery confirmation, which is cool. Automatically built in, it's not annoying. And smiley faces, in case you want to use those. Okay, next up is the email client. It's very similar to any other email client on a smartphone. One thing though is it does not support threaded emails. So someone coming from Gmail, for example, might not be too happy about that. But it also does, at least, support full HTML. So if you click on an email, you see it exactly the way that you would normally see it on your desktop, which is cool. You can also scroll through your emails by holding onto the side here and sort by date. You can also sort by status, which means you'll be able to see unread at the top, which is cool. I like that feature. Move messages, delete them. You can get to your folders, obviously, like normal. Sync, and then obviously write a new mail. Okay, next up is the browser, which when you first start it up, shows your top sites that you've been to in a text link format, which does take a little bit of getting used to, but it is pretty productive and kind of makes sense. Besides that, the browser does render pages pretty quickly. I have not been to yet. And it's pretty quick to load. Site. There you go, as you can see, not too bad. The browser does not support Flash, and at the moment there is no idea of if it will ever support Flash, so don't count on it. Also, some people have said that Fennec, which is Firefox for mobile, which does work on this device, does support Flash, and I can tell you right now that I've used it, and no, it does not. Also talked to some developers about it, and they were telling me that there probably will not be any Flash support in Fennec, for the N9 at least, in a long time, if ever. One cool feature about the browser, though, is that whenever you open pages, that they all show up as their own windows. So whenever you are multitasking and you need to switch between the windows that you're viewing, it is kind of convenient to have it do that. Also, they're live, so you can start to load something, go to another page, and wait for it to load. Okay, next up we have maps. And the maps work very similar to any other maps, like Google Maps, for example. It has 3D mode, it has a terrain view, searching, directions, and it even has free turn-by-turn directions, which is a new thing for Obvi Maps. It differs in that you can actually download maps. So you can go to Manage Maps, Add Maps, and you can select an area of the world and download maps for that area. Why would you do that? If you're on Wi-Fi and you do that, you can then use the maps without a data connection, so it could save you data time. Also, if you're traveling overseas, same reason. One little feature that I noticed about it was that I can also actually go download the map, say for New York, go into the subway system, and still be able to see the subway maps because it does have the public transport lines. And I can still see those while underground. So that's a neat little feature. One thing that's not so good is its accuracy. It's a little questionable. I, the other day, searched for a bar and ended up in someone's driveway, for example. Next up, we have the calendar, which has this cool little view where it's got the 30 days and little dots on days that you have things. And then also your agenda shows up here for the next couple of days, or I think it's maybe even the next 24 hours. You can also switch to other views. For example, see the whole day by hour, or see your agenda. It does also sync with Google Calendar and Exchange. And that brings us to music, which has this cool little interface with the tiles, which I like. And also you can obviously sort by artist, album, songs, etc. You can even tap one of these and start playing the song. Volume on the device is pretty good. It's not as loud as some Nokia devices I've heard, but it's not bad. And the microphone, or excuse me, the speaker is down here on the bottom. Also, this can play in the background. So as you're doing other things, it keeps playing. And in conjunction with the music player, you have AccuWeather, which is basically kind of sort of a mix between, say, iTunes and Pandora. Sort of. So you can obviously get songs, which I'll show you in a second, but you can also click on genres and listen to music. And then click on the music and then download it if you want, or just keep going through. So, pop. And then you can skip through the songs, just like, say, Pandora, and eventually you get to a commercial, which you can't skip. And that's that. You know, besides that, you can click on a song and purchase it for about €1, which I think in US dollars is like $1,000. It's close to that, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, you'll also notice that these are in euros, by the way, which is because I had to select the United Kingdom whenever I got this phone, simply because there is no United States. So that also means that those radios that we were listening to, you may get surprised every now and then and have some music that you've never heard of because it's a top 40s UK band, not United States, but sometimes that's kind of cool. Now, besides music, there is an app store, and there's not really much to say about it. We're all pretty familiar with app stores at this point, I would hope. We know how they work. You go in here and you download an app, and that's that. But this one basically just doesn't have very much in it. There are a few, and there are a few really good ones, actually, but the choices are pretty limited. If you need an explanation as to why they're limited on this device, check out the link beneath this video on our site and click on the review that we initially did. Okay, next up we have Facebook, which works the same as any other Facebook app. But it is nice to see that they actually have a Facebook app, which is cool. Your messages, friends, profiles, photos, you pretty much know how this kind of works. So just like the Facebook app, we also have Twitter, which comes pre-installed on the phone. Works the same as any other Twitter app. You have Foursquare that can be downloaded from the App Store, which is a nice little app, very polished, done by Foursquare themselves, I'd assume. And then we also have Skype that comes preloaded on the phone. All of these are very basic. They do pretty much what they do on any other operating system. Skype does allow you to do IMs and calling, but there is no video calling yet. Not sure if that's ever going to come. It would be nice to have a use for this little camera down here, for example, video calling, because there is no other way to do video calling with this device as of yet. Okay, and really quick, we have some of the basic apps that comes on it as well, like the clock, which you can also set alarms. It has this cool little wheel thing to set alarms. As far as I can tell, there is no limit to the amount of alarms. I've set maybe 20, and it still works. You also have a calculator, which is responsive and does exactly what you see here. You have notes, which is, again, very basic. Tap it, add a note. One cool thing you can do, though, is you can use underline, bold, italic. You can even change the font size, and the font color. So that's not too bad. And then all your notes are listed here. And then we also have AccuWeather, which is the preloaded weather app that comes on the device. You set up your location,
it gives you the 15-day forecast down here, the current whatever is going on. You have hourly forecasts, which you can go through, which I always like. Maps, which is like a radar map, which doesn't want to load. There we go. You have maps, which you can push play and show you what's going on in a loop. You have lifestyle, which is just weird. Tells you your barbecue forecast. I'm not even sure what that's about. Bunch of neat information that possibly, maybe, sort of, kind of, you might need, depending on if you're barbecuing, I guess. And then settings is just switching English metric.
Okay, so next up we have the Associated Press news feed. You basically select topics and get news about these topics. You can also set up your events page to automatically show these topics as well. So that's in here. So they'll line up within your feed on this page as well. Next we have feeds. Essentially works the same way as the Associated Press, but it's not Associated Press. You can put in whatever feeds you want. You can either search for them, or you can add them in manually if you know the feed address, etc. Put those in, and again, these two can also be displayed in your feed on your events page. Next, we have the Wi-Fi hotspot app, which only works if you have Wi-Fi tethering enabled on your account with your carrier. Not sure how it knows, but it checks, and this is the first time I've ever had a Wi-Fi tethering app stop me from using it. I'm using T-Mobile on this device right now, but normally when I open a Wi-Fi tethering app, it just starts to work. Here, it kind of knows that I don't have a tethering plan, because I don't, and it stops it. Then we have a universal search. So you can type in anything, whether it's a contact name, the name of an app. It lists whether it's an application, a song, a user guide, whatever it may be, including emails. And it's all searched in this one universal search, which is something that's becoming pretty much standard on most smartphones nowadays. Besides that, we do also have Track and Protect. If you log on for I believe it's a free account on this website, you can do certain things like automatically wipe your data from the internet. You can track to see where your phone is, all in case it gets lost, stolen, anything like that. So it's a neat little security feature that just comes pre-installed on the device. Okay, next up we have the camera, which opens relatively quickly. The one issue, though, that it does have, I mean, you can see it's actually got pretty good depth perception compared to most cameras, which is nice, which basically means that stuff in the foreground is in focus and things in the background get a little fuzzy, which is nice. So generally when you see an image like that on, say, the internet or whatever, for some reason you can't tell, it looks a little bit nicer than images that don't do that, and that's really because that's how our eyes work. So we kind of lean towards those kind of photos as being nicer. So that is nice. One thing that it does have an issue with, though, is highlight situations. So situations where there's a lot of light, there is a bit of noise in the photo. Well, here we have some shots in a club, so a very low light situation using the flash on the device, and it actually works pretty well. Now this is a highlight situation, so you can see in this, there's a lot of kind of noise. A lot of the whiteness is coming into the outfit, for example. Now, yes, you can go into the ISO settings and stuff and change that, but generally out of the box, if you're just using auto everything, this is a bit of an issue. So yes, you can tweak it, but who wants to really tweak it every time they take a picture and set the ISO exactly as they need on a camera phone? I mean, I understand if you're taking a professional picture and you wanted to, get that right shot, but on your camera phone, you want it to just kind of work, be able to point and shoot. Besides that, we have videos. This is the videos that come pre-installed on the device. And they run really well. And there is a cool feature when you want to swipe to get out of it. It continues to play, which just looks cool. Sound quality is great. It's very loud. The speaker is on the bottom. So when you do set the device down, it doesn't muffle it like most devices where the speaker is on the back. So we'll have enough of that. As for videos that you record yourself, here's one recorded in 720p. And as you see, there is a little bit of noise still in the shot, which is what I was talking about before with the pictures. Poor Pablo. Okay, next up we have the settings of the device. Now, I don't think I really need to get in this. Should be pretty self-explanatory. They just allow you to adjust your device's settings. So there's no need to really go through all this, but I do believe there are a few that are worth mentioning. One of them is the internet connection settings. This allows you to connect to different internet connections, Wi-Fi, your data connection, for example. Nothing unusual there, but what you will notice that is a little different is there is no Wi-Fi on and off switch. So there's no way to turn on and off the Wi-Fi antenna. Now normally, in a device, that is a problem. But this device automatically switches between any data connection, be it Wi-Fi or not, whenever it is connected to before. So if you've ever connected to a network, it's going to automatically connect. There's no turning the Wi-Fi antenna on and off, there's no searching, there's no waiting for the connection. As soon as it notices something that it can connect to, it's going to connect. You can, of course, do this with other devices, but leaving the Wi-Fi antenna on other devices is one of the fastest ways to kill your battery. Somehow, though, the N9 does this and still has better battery life than any of the other Android, iOS, or even Windows Phone 7 devices I've used. Okay, another setting that's in here that is interesting to note is the fact that there is NFC, which you can turn on, and what that means is any other NFC-enabled device, for example, the Galaxy Nexus, those kind of newer devices as well, if they're NFC-enabled and you both have it on, if you just tap the two devices together, it automatically pairs them with Bluetooth and shares whatever it is you already wanted to share. So it's essentially a faster way to use Bluetooth, and kind of cool because you can just kind of tap devices together and bam, you've shared an app, a photo, a video, whatever. Okay, also a setting that's normally off by default is this one here, the swipe down to close apps, but it does have it built in. So if you turn that on, and let's say you wanted to keep using settings maybe later, you swipe from left, right, or from the bottom, and that'll keep it in running state. You can go back to it, etc. But if I swipe from the top, it automatically closes that. So that's just a neat little thing that it does have the ability to do right out of the box without some other type of app. And I personally turn it on because I like it that I can, if I know I'm not going to use something, I swipe from the top, it's gone. All right, guys, and that's it for our very lengthy walkthrough of the Nokia N9. We've covered hopefully everything you could possibly want to know. If there are any other questions, feel free to comment under this video on our site, not on YouTube. It's just less likely that we'll check the YouTube comments as it is our site comments. But yeah, hope you enjoyed and head to our site for other videos.